Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Jeff Mueller, class of 1979 from Kenmore East Senior High School, here for the Bulldog History Channel. And I'm here with Mr. Mr. Jim Dunnigan. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Well,
All right. Well, we're going to kick off our interview with Jim and walk a little bit through some Kenmore East history and get some thoughts from Jimmy's perspective. So, Jim, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. Things like your name, age, where you reside, things of that nature.
okay, Jim Dunnigan. I'm just turned 75. I reside in Gettsville now. Graduated in 1969, but I've been associated with the school since probably 1961, when the paint wasn't even dry on the wall.
No, that sounds great. That sounds great. So, I mean, just to sort of, I guess, dial back a little bit, can you tell us a little about your family background, sort of your siblings maybe, or your occupations of your parents, the kind of household that you grew up in?
Okay, we grew up on Rye Place, and my brother is 5 years older than me. He's from the class of 1964. My mom was a music teacher in the district at Parkside and Brighton, and my dad was custodian at Hoover for many years.
So the family was definitely involved in the education and the buildings of education from different angles.
School, one way or another, was a focus of all our lives, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's great. So maybe a little bit about what was it like for you growing up, and what what was the path or what led you to teaching and eventually getting to Kenmore East? Like, what's the path you took, to get to Kenmore East?
Well, I can remember back in probably 1958 or 59, probably 58, driving down Brighton with my mom, and the building was being constructed. I can still remember the I-beams, and she said to me, "That's where your brother will go to high school, and then you will follow 5 years later."
Wow.
So when my brother became a sophomore here, I started coming into the school in 1961 to watch his JV basketball games and then his baseball games as well. So I've been in and out of the school for a very, very long time. Then when I got here as a sophomore in 1966, it was a different world. It was crowded. We had 2,400 kids in the school, 10 through 12, and it was just like a rat race between classes to go from one place to another.
So those were the days back when only 10th, 11th, and 12th was in the building versus 9th plus now today, in 2026.
That's correct, and it was a different culture then. Society was different, obviously, but the culture was that when you came in as a sophomore at 15 years old, you better start acting like a mature 17-year-old, or somebody would let you know that you're out of bounds on everything. It was kind of a self-policing environment, but you had to mature quickly.
Oh, and what when you came into the school, was there a particular class or discipline that you taught? And
Well, I knew I wasn't going to be a scientist. I stayed away from the sciences as best I could. But the English and social studies were my favorite courses. And in particular, one teacher, English teacher, Barbara O'Brien, had a tremendous impact on me. I don't know what it was, but I loved her class, and she became a friend for many years after I graduated.
oh, that sounds wonderful. And so was Kenmore East your first job as a teacher? Was
Well,
it
my
the
my
first stop you made, or?
Well, I after I graduated, I went to the University of Rochester, did my student teaching in East Rochester, New York, and subbed in the Rochester area for a couple of months, but ran out of money and came back home and subbed in Kenmore. The following year, I got a job teaching 7th and 8th grade social studies at Franklin Junior High School, and then I volunteered to help out with the football program with Coach Adams, having played for him when I was in high school. And after that, after 2 years, I got a permanent, full-time coaching job in football and JV baseball. And then in 1978, they eliminated my teaching position due to declining enrollments.
Oh boy! Wow, wow. So that's the legendary Sparky Adams that you were working with at that time.
That's correct. Yeah,
Yeah, once a Bulldog, always a Bulldog fame, right?
that's That's the mantra, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember who the principal and the assistant
Oh,
were?
goodness, yeah.
Back when you were here, when you started here.
Albert J. Witzig was the principal,
Oh,
and
wow.
the assistant principals were Al McGamwell and Frank Hyatt. And then later, there was another assistant principal that came whose name escapes me right now. But they had a profound influence on me, in particular Al McGamwell. For some reason, he just took me under his wing and was very encouraging in everything I was doing. And many years later, after when I was the assistant principal at Kenmore West, he would visit me often and just give me subtle advice. He wasn't domineering or anything, but he was a tremendous man who had a great impact on many people at Kenmore East as well.
Oh, and that's just so important. I know at the Alumni Association we're currently working on a mentorship program, and having a mentor or having somebody in your camp is pretty important, and can be pretty critical for you as you're starting to develop and make some things happen. So when you were teaching, what were the students like, and sort of what was the atmosphere? Because things change over time. I know at times students could leave the building and the premises going back many years, and it's very different today. So what was the atmosphere and the students like back when you first started?
Actually, back then you really couldn't leave the building. I was at the junior high school, so it was a different setting altogether. But in coaching at the high school, it was pretty much like it was when I was a student here. Things weren't so. What's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe rigid or programmed or
things were more. I guess it seems like rules were followed a little bit more closely than in the 70s than later when I was the assistant principal here.
Gotcha. So maybe the students were just more in tune with sticking with the rules and not running outside the lines as much as in later years.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So what kind of socializing was there? Like, where did the students hang out? I remember we'd always say meet under the clock and let's go out on the porch and
when I was a
things
student,
like that.
we meet under the clock all the time. And as a matter of fact, when I came back as the assistant principal, I had the original clock for a while in my office, but I don't know whatever happened to it.
Wow.
But the socializing was like going to the clock when you're in school, and after basketball games, going to Gleason's and getting a Heiberger, and going to the mall.
Wow, and going to the mall, right? Those quite a change there. Yeah, it's just something that we can't access anymore because they
can't even get in there.
Yeah, they seem to be closing left and right. How about extracurriculars? What were those types of things? What would you see the kids doing? I mean, I know certainly the sports teams were well-rounded at Kenmore East, but how about extracurriculars and those things as well?
We've always had a very fine music program, and many of us who played football and baseball would be active in the musicals and the chorus, and it just seemed to have fun with anything that was offered here.
No, that's great. That's great. So are there any specific, happenings or instances or individuals that stand out in your mind that you want to share about?
The social studies department had a very big influence on me. Lou Reuter, Marv Madison, and Don Cruikshank, names from many years ago. They were just very influential during the formative years.
Right. And great stuff. I mean, if we forget our history, we potentially can repeat it, as they say, right? So here's a good one that folks really might be interested in, because I've caught a lot of stories and heard a lot of lore around it. But years ago, it was sort of the age of the senior prank, and I've heard some whoppers, to be honest with you, from the amusement park, Native American being relocated to the school, to automobiles ending up where they shouldn't have ended up. But anything stand out to you that was interesting, or you might want to share about senior pranks?
Yeah, I think that kind of evolved a little bit more in the 70s. I don't recall that there was a senior prank at all when I was graduating. But in the 70s, yeah, you talk about the Indian in the cars supposedly on the roof, and even when I was the assistant principal here, some kids would do a couple things on towards the end of the school year, but nothing that was terribly damaging.
Right. Well, good to hear, because the school's still here, standing strong, which is great. I mean, can you say what your fondest memory is of Kenmore East? I mean, and you might not have one, but are there any fond memories, or perhaps a fondest memory of things when you were teaching and interacting with the students and all?
As a teacher, the collegiality amongst the faculty was tremendous. That's very professional, very focused on kids' development. As a student, the fondest memories are the relationships I established that continue to this day. And I'm still in touch with guys I played ball with and guys I performed with musically, and that's the strongest thing. I mean, we're still good friends from a friendship that was established about over 55 years ago.
Yeah, so lifelong friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Just tremendous. I mean, now you mentioned music, and many would know, some might not. But can you tell us a little bit about the music background and some of what you did? I know you're in a band called the Tweeds that became a few other things that were as very prominent, just like the Tweeds were. But any thoughts, or you want to talk a little bit about the music and the Tweeds?
Well, as I said, my mother was a music teacher, so I had to learn how to play the violin and the piano. And I remember I had a problem with my foot, so the doctor said I had to stay in bed for maybe a week or so. So I begged my mother to buy a guitar for me. So she gave me a guitar, and I taught myself how to play, and started playing with other people in groups that probably weren't too good, but it was fun to get out and play. But then my brother and George Constantino were at Kenmore East together and played football and baseball together. And one day the conversation got to the point that George said his brother Dave played guitar, and my brother said, "Oh, my brother Jim plays guitar. Maybe we should get them together." Wow. So the Tweeds had already been established, and I was asked to go to a rehearsal with them one night, and they asked me to join the group. And I had to borrow a bass guitar, I remember, for that audition, and had to buy one very quickly. And so the group continued to play at dances and various teen clubs. And then we entered the Battle of the Bands, sponsored by WKBW, the KB Fun Affair. Wow. And we won the contest. I think Dave was 12, I was 14, and Teddy was 14, and Paul was 13. So we got an audition with Decca Records. So that next summer we drove down to New York City, auditioned for them, and I still have a copy of that audition CD. It was a tape, now it's a CD. And then they awarded us a contract.
Wow.
And ironically, Decca Records had turned down the Beatles, but they signed the Tweeds, which is a true story.
Well, go ahead.
So we recorded the next summer, recorded a piece called A Thing of the Past, and it did very well locally. It got to number 1 or number 2 in Buffalo for a number of weeks, and then we recorded again in February of '67 and recorded I Want Her to Know, which did well did very well also. Then the next year, Decca Records was bought out by Music Corporation of America, and we were supposed to make an album, but they decided not to sign us to that. So I left the group and went on to college, and the group continued, became Talus, became internationally known, and and Dave is still playing.
Dave's still playing, and the only guy that could fill your shoes was the Mr. Billy Sheehan.
Billy Sheehan, the best bass guitar player in the world.
Yeah, I mean, many would say in the world. Pretty impressive, Jim. That's just fantastic. And back in the days when you could win a local contest, maybe an agent would come out to see you at a gig, and you could get signed that way back then, and it's just a different musical world today.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. We traveled throughout Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York State. We were featured on some nationally syndicated shows, Upbeat and Come Alive. Performed with Roy Orbison and Gary Puckett in Union Gap. Wow. And we're on the same TV show as The Fifth Dimension and The American Breed. So it was a great experience.
Wow, that's fantastic. I mean, and those are names certainly. I don't know if we have younger graduates maybe watching the interview. They might not catch some of those names, but you talk about, Roy Orbison. Oh my gosh, it doesn't get any bigger than that, right? So, hey, back during the teaching days, you potentially had, I don't want to say summers off, but you had an opportunity to do different things. What did you do during the summers, and what was it like at that time?
Mostly did graduate work and took it easy.
That's all right. That's all right. That's, I mean, from what you see in the classroom and, what you have to go through to not only, teach and share knowledge, but, manage the entire, group of folks. That's a lot of work. Now, here's one, and just tell me if you like this one or not, but can you tell us one thing that most people would not know about you? Is there a particular aspect that somebody would say, I didn't know that Jim's favorite fruit was kiwi or something
I
like
married a
that?
girl from Kenmore West.
Oh,
Although we went to Hoover together.
I gotcha.
So,
Yeah. And back in the day, Hoover and Ben Franklin were the feeder schools for Kenmore East. So you met a young lady from Hoover who ended up going to West, and we were sort of bitter rivals, at least athletically over the years. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Don't think any less of Mr. Dunnigan. He's a legend, guys. He's a legend. Oh, are any other teachers or staff that you'd like to mention, or thoughts you'd like to share at all? Or
each one of them, had an impact on me one way or another. Mrs. Hicks in the vocal music department, Art Cranston in the English department, just wonderful people who just had a positive influence on you and a tremendous faith in your ability and capabilities.
That's great. Now, how do you think things have changed over the years? I guess from a teacher's perspective, a professional educator as well as like the student populations. What are your thoughts on, because you certainly have an incredible, scope and horizon that you've seen, from a Kenmore East standpoint.
I would not want to be a teenager growing up now. The social media aspect is just devastating, and kids are addicted to it. I've been retired from being an assistant principal for 14 years now, and I remember telling Barb Field, who was the principal for the first part of my tenure at Kenmore East, when we discussed the phones, I said, we're not going to win this battle. The phones are going to win. So we had to figure out a way to accommodate it. And it's at the point where that's the most important thing in a kid's life now. So that certainly has impacted the way the school has to operate. Also, it seems as if, and this is a generalization, it seems as if it's incumbent upon the teachers for the kids' success as opposed to the students taking responsibility for their own success.
Gotcha.
And it's
and the responsibility should start in the home and come up through the schools and
the erosion of the nuclear family has had some impact on it as well.
Sure. Your job isn't to be a police officer; it's to be an educator, and that's an important thing. So that sort of rolls us into our next question, because it's what do you think about how technology has changed and impacted the world? And you've talked about one huge aspect, the smartphone. And there's certainly positive aspects to it, but you've seen some more challenging ones. How about other aspects of it? I remember smart boards when we were looking at schools for my kids, and technology has really come up and plays a bigger role in teaching and in the schools as well. Any thoughts on that? Or?
I don't know if I could operate in a school now. The amount that they use, and my daughter is a teacher, and the way that she uses technology is unbelievable, something I would never have thought of. So I guess I'm glad I worked when I did, and I don't have to try to keep up with all the technology.
Yeah, as we have an iPhone Pro Max doing our interview here today.
Exactly.
In a conference room right in Kenmore East.
I remember mimeograph machines and using those all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
yeah.
And
clapping erasers. That used to be one of my jobs back at Blessed Sacrament. I can remember that And sometimes that was a bit of a punishment for acting up in class a little bit, kind of a thing. Oh my gosh, that's very interesting. Oh, any thoughts on? I mean, like from a community standpoint, or volunteering, or things that were important to you, or you really have enjoyed over the years, and things of that nature. I know you certainly did an awful lot of coaching, and that's a whole nother way to develop kids and to enrich and broaden their experience at school. But any thoughts there? Or?
Other jobs. I worked buildings and grounds for the district for a couple of years before I started teaching. Sports has always been a very important part of my life. During the summers, you'd ask what I do in the summers. Well, I take graduate courses and then play softball 5 nights a week. And then when I got laid off from teaching, I went back to playing some rugby as an adult and played that up until I was 35.
Wow.
And ruptured my Achilles tendon, so that ended that career.
That's a tough sport. It's a tough sport.
It's a lot. It's not as bad as it looks. Not as bad as it looks at all.
Well, if you could do it all over again, would you do it the same? Would you
Absolutely.
Do it a little different?
Without question. Years ago, one of my buddies, Jim Pilkey, was being inducted into the Kenmore East Athletic Hall of Fame, and that was during I think it was the October surprise or something. Yeah. And the building was closed, but he and I got together and we walked through the building. And he looked at me, he said, you're doing exactly what you always wanted to do. And he was right. I remember when I was between jobs, when I was selling for Maryland Cup Corporation, selling paper cups and ice cream cones. Wow. My regional manager said, "You're not happy doing this, are you?" And I said, "No, not really." He says, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I really want to become the assistant principal at Kenmore East." He said, "Well, go do it." And that kind of motivated me to do it. And one thing led to another. And my first opportunity was to be the assistant principal at Kenmore West. And I was there for 8 years and loved every minute of it. It was a tremendous school, tremendous teachers. But then the opportunity presented itself to transfer here. And I did it with a lot of enthusiasm, knowing that we could reach out to alumni, make them an integral part of the school again, and make them feel home here, even if they've been away for many, many years.
And that's where you and I met and
That's
came
right.
together. I mean, we certainly met before that, but from a working standpoint, we really got together on the Alumni Association.
So, it was everything just seemed to fit together. And I think, for me, the culmination was our 50-year celebration in 2010. And we had a year-long list of activities, and we brought back everybody who ever played the East-West football game. We had a reunion for the basketball team. We did the musical. We invited alumni to come back and participate in the musical, and did the first production of HMS Pinafore that the school ever did back in 1960. Wow. So that was kind of the culmination of my experience here.
That's great. No, fantastic. And we're all better because you chose that path and worked it hard. So here's what advice would you have for students that are this is sort of a two-part a little bit. Advice for students that are just starting, and then those who are just getting ready to graduate. So that's sort of both ends of that.
Yeah.
For
those who are just starting, get involved in everything you can, because every type of program, every type of club, every type of activity there's a benefit in there for you somehow. To participate in as many things as you possibly can. To those who are graduating, as you pursue your studies, your vocation, or whatever, be patient. Everything doesn't fall together immediately. It takes years to develop some of these things. When I lost my teaching job in 1978, I thought it was the end of the world. I had just been promoted to the assistant varsity football coach, and then it was taken from me. Yeah. So I continued to work and persevere to get back into education, which I did through Erie One BOCES, and then things fell into place by going to Kenmore West as the assistant principal and then coming over here.
Realized your goal and dream of being an assistant principal, which is fantastic.
Things come together. Be patient.
Be patient. Well, patience is a good thing, right? It seems like today no one has an ounce of time, right? It seems like everything moves so fast.
Yeah.
So patience is a great great thought. So here's a deep one. We only got a couple more questions before we wrap up, but this is a little deeper one. How would you like to be remembered?
As someone who was loyal, who was true to their purpose within their capabilities. Like I said, I stayed away from science because I knew I'd never be a doctor, but I knew what I enjoyed, and I'm glad that I did what I did, and I hope that I haven't disappointed anyone.
Well, I can say I've known you for a couple decades now, Jim, and everybody is so much better for knowing you, and we're pretty blessed that you chose the path that you did. So, any additional thoughts or comments? I know we've covered quite a bit, but I mean, anything just in the course of the interview that you wish you would have mentioned to an earlier question, or anything at all?
I think what I'm so impressed with is the different paths people have taken coming out of the school, and how the values that were instilled in them here have carried them on. I know thousands of alumni who have great memories of Kenmore East. They always have something nice to say about their teachers, and they've been so highly successful in their career and in their life. I think that's the most satisfying thing, to know that people come through this school and they're inspired and they're directed, and they take that advice and they turn it into success for themselves.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I totally feel that, from my work with you in the Alumni Association, when we see people that are CEOs of major corporations and individual entrepreneurs that are running museums out in the West, and doctors and lawyers and engineers and experts on bees and pollen. We have an incredible diversity of talent that has blossomed coming out of the learning and the principles and the environment, that was Kenmore East, which is pretty incredible.
One of the most satisfying things to me is if I'm out someplace and I run into former students, and they remember me and they ask questions. I remember we were at the Brighton Music Fest. And there was one student that I had at Franklin in 7th and 8th grade. And she came up and gave me a big hug and remembered me, and that was so touching.
Sometimes you don't realize the lives that you touch, and it's interesting. I sail a little bit myself. I like hopping in a sailboat, and people always told me that just 1 or 2 degrees, and then X amount of time down that path, you're in a whole different world. And if you can have a great teacher, a great educator, and they can just tweak you a couple of degrees, north or south, you can end up in a whole different place and really find your success. So that's great. So then, in closing, this is our standard for the Bulldog History Channel. In closing, what does it mean to you to be a Bulldog, and what would be your thoughts on the meaning of Bulldog spirit, or true Bulldog spirit?
Perseverance. Just don't ever give up. Be honest. Be truthful with yourself, and do good. Be good. Go Bills.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up then. This was a fantastic afternoon we got to spend with Mr. Jim Dunnigan. I'm Jeff Mueller, class of '79 for the Bulldog History Channel. Great being here. We're signing off. Have yourselves a great day.